This is the biggest owl in the world. It weighs 4 kilos, has a 2-meter wingspan, and can take prey as large as foxes and small deer. It's the European eagle owl, long thought to inhabit only the wilder, more remote parts of the continent. But now, it's time to think again. Eagle owls are breeding in this valley, in northern England. Their presence here was until recently a closely guarded secret. Over 8 years, this pair have been quietly breeding. 20 young owls have already left the nest, but no one has a clue where they've gone. These giant birds of prey are starting to colonize Britain, to the delight of some, and to the horror of others. The eagle owl is 4 times bigger than the more familiar barn owl, which with a 60-centimeter wingspan is hardly small. And it's 30 times bigger than the little owl. So if such a large new raptor keeps spreading, what will its impact on other wildlife be? Do we really want such a big predator, capable of eating prey as large as cats or small dogs? Roy Dennis is a specialist in raptor conservation. He spent his life trying to bring birds of prey back from the brink of extinction, including ospreys, red kites, and sea eagles. So if anyone's qualified to investigate the impact of eagle owls on Britain, it's Roy.
Well, this is an incredible owl. It's a monster, you know, it's the biggest owl. It's got a massive wingspan. I think it's a fantastic bird, but whether it belongs in Britain or not is controversial. Some people love it, some people don't. Should it be here, shouldn't it be here?
To try and make sense of it, Roy's going to study the pair in Yorkshire and see what he can learn from the rest of Europe, where people are used to living alongside these massive owls. Eagle owls were once common right across the European landmass. They've never been popular. In superstitious medieval times, they were considered to be omens of death. In the 19th century, eagle owls, like all birds of prey, were persecuted almost to extinction. Their population reached an all-time low in the 1960s. The only ones left were in the wildest and most remote parts of Europe. They're such secretive birds that there was little certainty about their real numbers or their range. There are a few old records of eagle owls in Britain, but most authorities dismiss them as false. And so, imagine the surprise when a pair started nesting in England in 1997. Malcolm Jones, who runs an owl sanctuary in Wales, has a simple explanation.
People have them as pets and then get fed up with them and let them go. You know, they just can't go away on holidays unless somebody looks after them. Well, this lady bought it off a breeder, and they kept on escaping from wherever she had it. And in the end, she just got fed up with looking for it, bothering with it. And then we got called up to the police. Do me, babes, eh? Say, do me, eh? Say. Yeah, I know.
Yes, that's my favourite bird. That's why I'm wearing its badge on my hair, you see.
Tony Warburton, director of another owl centre, is all too familiar with the problem.
People usually start off with a barn owl because they're bred in huge numbers in captivity. They're beautiful, and eventually somebody said, hey, I want a bigger one. And they come to a place like this, they see us flying one, say, wow, the biggest owl in the world. And you know, there are guys out there, the Rambos, the macho men, I want to have the biggest kind of owl on my fist, and look at me, guys, I'm going to go in my pub, look at me, I'm a hard man. And then they have about 8 pints, and they say, let's go and hunt with it. And suddenly you've got a lost one, because they're half cut with a beer, they don't know how to handle it properly, the bird's in a bad mood, and suddenly we've got a European eagle owl where it shouldn't be.
The last count was the eagle owls. There was 58 of them flying free that we know of.
With over 50 escaped eagle owls living in the wild, it seems likely that the pair in Yorkshire started their lives in captivity. The owls are nesting on Ministry of Defence land, and Tony Crease, an MOD conservation officer, has agreed to let Roy Dennis be among the first to observe the nesting pair, and has let him bring cameras along. Wild eagle owls have rarely been filmed before, in any country.
I received a telephone call from the local farmer, and we came up here. It was actually on the 11th of March 1997, and we came here, and we'd no sooner run the window down than we could hear the birds calling to each other, and it was just amazingly exciting.
And they're over here?
They're over here, on the far side there.
I see.
To Roy, it's a real privilege to be able to watch and listen to a bird that's never before been studied in the wild in Britain.
Yes. And a good strong call, wasn't it?
Mm. And again.
Do you think that was a male?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a very clear, distinctive call, isn't it? That's excellent, yeah. Superb. Definitely. Coming back along the cliff. And how long have these eagle owls nested here?
If they successfully breed this year, this will be their 10th breeding season that we know of. They might have bred before that, but we certainly know of 10 years, and during that period, they've raised 20 young.
Really? Now, this is third week of January. When do you think these will lay their eggs?
The earliest we've known them to be on eggs is about the 10th of February, so they've a bit to go yet.
By late April, spring is finally coming to the valley, and the calls of other birds can be heard, like the black grouse. These moors are a great habitat for many birds and mammals, all of which could be eagle owl prey. Roy has set up a hide from which he can spy on the nest.
Well, this is the first chance for me to watch these birds in the wild. There's the female. I'm sure she's got young, and she's hidden in a nest at the base of the cliff. You can just about see her head at times. Really great to watch her like this. I wonder what they're going to be eating, because people say they eat just about everything. And the jackdaws are starting to get busy as well.
that noise, and they're all flying around. I think they must have seen the male bird, because the female's just still sitting on the nest or hidden in her little cave, so I think all that commotion must have been to do with the male moving, probably from one perch to another, in one of the trees along the cliff. Oh, there she's off. That gives me a chance now. I can actually see the young, because she's no longer sitting on top of them. There's 3 of them. 3, that's a good brood. I wonder where she went. That's not her. No, that's him coming. I think he's going to start hunting, actually.
Most owls hunt only at night and spend the day hidden, secretive and sleeping. But Roy is learning that these owls are active well before dusk, probably because they've got young. The one crucial thing to discover is what they're eating.
It's all gone quiet again a wee bit. Young one's laying down. Male person. No, he's off. I'm sure this time he's going to go somewhere. Oh, he's going faster. He's caught a rabbit. The female? Well, she doesn't seem to have seen what he's done, because she's just continued to preen on a rock. Just cleaning her leg. He's not far from her now. I can see where he is. I can see her flying across now. And he's just flown a wee bit towards her. You know, this is just new. Something that hasn't been seen for, well, hundreds of years. Maybe more than that, since the last ones bred in Britain. Oh yeah, that's lovely. A male handing the rabbit over to female. The young know something's going on, because they would have heard their parents calling. Oh, but she's heard me. She's very wary. Oh, now they're really starting to feed. Oh, that's lovely. The first time I've seen that. As the chicks are fed, you can see their little white chins coming through, just like their parents have white chins.
Remote cameras on the nest show that between dusk and midnight, 5 rabbits have been caught. Since this is the first time wild eagle owls have been observed in Britain, every bit of behaviour is a revelation. What Roy doesn't know is how many eagle owls we could end up with in Britain. What's the key to their survival? Is it rabbits? Is it wilderness? There are a few wild places left in Britain, but surely this crowded island couldn't hold more than a handful of these massive predators. Scandinavia has long been a stronghold for eagle owls, and it also has far more wilderness than Britain. Owls are found along the coast and in secluded forests and mountains, wherever there are suitable cliff ledges for nesting. In Sweden, the government's been trying to boost their numbers. They don't see a predator of this size as much of a threat at all. Roy has come to Sweden to learn more about how these owls live. But he soon realizes that eagle owls are thriving not just in wilderness areas, but in the more heavily farmed south of the country too.
This looks just like southern England or Norfolk or Suffolk. They're quite rich farmland with sugar beets and corn and barley.
Local birdwatcher David Eterius takes Roy to a place where wild eagle owls are found.
David, this is obviously a working quarry.
Yeah.
And the owls don't mind? What is going on here? This is Sunday, but what's going on here normally?
Yes, it's obviously they don't mind about the activities.
And every now and then there's an explosion when they're blowing up the
Yeah.
rocks, presumably,
Yeah.
so the birds have got used to that.
Yeah, exactly. Look over there. There is
Oh, I see it.
there is
Yeah.
a crack to the right of the crack. Yeah.
Incredible. You know, the rocks are so similar.
Yeah, they are.
Just suddenly you see it.
Yeah.
And what about food?
Yeah, there is plenty of food also, lots of rabbits and hares.
Roy's surprised how well eagle owls are doing in Sweden, and how tolerant they are of human activity. So perhaps wilderness isn't so important after all. The situation in Holland, a few hundred miles away, is even more startling. Just like in Britain, here they've made a sudden appearance too. Paul Voskamp explains.
Became a breeding bird in the Netherlands in 1997, and they've spread from Belgium and Germany, where there are populations close to the border, to our country, and they've occupied now almost all quarries in this part of the Netherlands. We have 7 pairs now.
Really? It must be quite difficult for them to find the quarries, do you think? Or...
Yeah, it's amazing. This is a flat landscape, and there are some holes in it, and they find them. It's amazing. This is the cement factory, the only cement factory we have in the Netherlands, and this is actually where the first eagle owl pair was found in 1997.
Because this is a massive factory. Isn't it?
Yeah, it's huge.
It's very interesting for me when you think the kind of British view is that eagle owl lives in the kind of wild places of Europe, and here we are in what is really an industrial site so close to Maastricht.
Industry, noise, and the owls just don't seem bothered.
And actually the pair nested the first year in one of those entrances. In the second hole there's some bushes,
Yeah.
and there we found the nest.
That's a superb site.
Yeah,
And they just kept on breeding from then on.
yeah, they bred in this part of the quarry all those years.
And has it been the same pair?
In 1999, the male of the pair died and was replaced by another one. And in 2003, also the male died, and again another male arrived.
So there's obviously a real pool of non-breeders.
Yeah, there must be birds floating around and checking quarry sites if there's room for them.
And yet there clearly aren't a lot of quarries.
I think the number of quarries is limiting the number of breeding pairs we have.
So if you had more quarries...
We'd have more nesting pairs, yeah.
So evidence from both Sweden and Holland suggests that it isn't wilderness per se, distance from humans, that's the eagle owl's main requirement. It seems to be simpler than that. They just need cliffs with ledges and plenty to eat. This makes Britain ideal habitat. In fact, we've got thousands of quarries, more than Sweden and Holland combined. By mid-May, the owlets are 3 weeks old and ready to be ringed, something that Tony does every year. He hopes that the rings will reveal where the young owls are going, that someone will find an owl, dead or alive, follow the instructions on the ring and phone in.
Oh, they're just so great little guys.
They must be being well fed because look at those talons.
Fantastic. Just so much feathering on the legs, isn't it? Just
They are gorgeous, aren't they?
Well, I wonder where these will go.
It's anybody's guess.
Yeah.
Anybody's guess.
Yeah. And she's kept away.
We'll head back down, I think.
This is the 23rd owlet he's ringed, but so far, no phone calls. Spring is now well underway across the moors. Both merlin and red grouse are raising young. Down in the valley, wheatears have found a protected nest site in a stone wall. Buzzards are also nesting just a few hundred meters from the owls and feeding their young on rabbits too. In the past 30 years, buzzards have increased by over 500% and spread rapidly across the country. Couldn't eagle owls do the same? New feathers appear on the young owls every day. They're eating much more food now and becoming more and more agile. When the male hands over the food to the female, it's more than just a matter of necessity. Every time it happens, it strengthens the bond between the two. Both the buzzards and the eagle owls are raising their young on rabbits. This hidden valley has an abundance of rabbits, and right now the banks are alive with them. There are sheep and lambs in the valley too, and though owls are capable of taking young lambs, it's the eagle owls that are afraid. Farmers and gamekeepers often worry about predators, but if they're only eating rabbits, perhaps these owls aren't such a bad thing. At the latest estimate, there were 38 million rabbits in Britain, more than enough for eagle owls to eat. But the trouble with rabbits is that diseases like myxomatosis can sometimes wipe them out. So what would eagle owls turn to if they ran out of rabbits? In 1970, Holland lost all its rabbits to a disease called VHD. So what do the Dutch owls eat? Roy meets Paul Voskamp in a disused quarry frequented by a pair of eagle owls.
There used to be rabbits here, but the rabbits have almost completely gone extinct in the Netherlands.
So they're obviously taking the kind of commonest prey in the area. Oh, what have we got there?
From hedgehog.
Oh, yes. So hedgehog is quite a common prey, is it?
It's almost 25% of their diet.
Hedgehogs? Would we be prepared to accept that?
Do you think there's a high density of hedgehogs here?
There's a high density of hedgehogs in villages.
And the village is not that far away?
No, it's only 1 kilometer.
Yeah.
But there's a bigger surprise to come. The remains of a buzzard.
Oh, look here.
Oh, crikey.
Oh, this is common buzzard.
Yeah.
Taken as prey.
Good.
Look.
Lord. Just ripped off, is it?
Yeah, they just tear off the forearm like that.
Really shows what they can feed on. Do you find many birds of prey? What have you found at this nest?
Well, this pair is especially eating many birds of prey. In 3 years' time, it ate like 10 common buzzards.
Yeah.
It eats barn owls. Also, about 10 we found.
Clearly, eagle owls are a pretty high-ranking bird of prey. A predator of predators.
What do people think about that in Holland?
I don't think there's real concern, but I think a lot of people are just very interested to see what will happen.
You know, the buzzard with us has increased dramatically after hundreds of years of persecution. You know, where I live, there's probably a pair of buzzards with a nest maybe every 800 meters.
Just like here, yeah.
Just like here. And, you know, some people might say, well, what is the control on buzzard? At the present time, there's no natural predator, but there's no doubt that eagle owl is a predator of buzzard. And it's just part of nature, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just a part of nature. Hunting in the local villages, eating hedgehogs and birds of prey. This evidence, and the suspicion that the bird might not even belong in Britain, is what's worrying conservationists.
The moorlands of northern Britain are home to nationally important populations of wading birds, particularly birds like lapwings and redshank and snipe, birds like merlins and hen harriers, birds like black grouse and red grouse, and there's no doubt that eagle owls would quite happily take many, if not all, of those species.
If you take the example of the corncrake, for example, I mean, there has been a huge amount of conservation effort, public money gone into the conservation of that species. I'm picking an example out of the blue here, but if we suddenly had eagle owls reintroduced that got a predilection for predating on corncrakes, that might become an issue.
But Roy's less worried.
If it doesn't belong here, and it does do damage, then they could be very concerned. But if it is part of the normal European ecosystem, and it kills another bird or animal, that's just nature.
It's not just rare birds that concern author and photographer Michael Leach. He worries about pets and livestock too.
They'll take anything, is the truth. They are non-specialist feeders, and certainly they will take lambs. If the lambs are found within the hunting territory, eagle owls will take them, because this is prime prey for them. They are mammal specialists, and lambs are just the right size for eagle owls.
The evidence isn't there. You know, when you look at the ones in northern England, they're eating rabbits. It's 99.9% rabbits.
We all love owls. Owls are provably one of the most popular birds in the world. We like the idea of owls. But as soon as owls start moving into gardens, as they will, and start taking animals that we regard as being important to us, our view of them will change. I'm not suggesting that we drive off the eagle owls. I'm not suggesting we shoot them. I'm simply saying that their accidental arrival should be seen simply as being accidental. I cannot see a happy ending to having wild eagle owls in Britain.
While the debate goes on, eagle owls are spreading. The Yorkshire pair have reared 20 young, and there are 3 more on the way. Could they be stopped? Could eagle owls be shot? Surely a rare bird like this is protected by law. Well, no, it's not. Who says? Steve Dudley of the British Ornithological Union. Like a passport office, the BOU decides whether birds are British or not. Only species on their official list can be protected.
The government itself now bases its own legislation on the British list. So as soon as a species gets admitted to the British list, it effectively gets covered by the current Wildlife and Countryside Act. What we would call non-natives or aliens that aren't part of our natural countryside or haven't yet established as part of our natural countryside aren't protected by law.
Does this mean that people who for whatever reason don't like eagle owls can do anything they want to the Yorkshire birds?
Technically, yes, they could go out and smash the eggs, disturb the birds, or even kill the birds if they wanted to, yes.
We have experienced that. We have had the eggs smashed here. On one occasion, 4 times in 1 year, the nest was destroyed, and she managed to rear no young that particular year. But I personally feel that that is a shame, and I feel that if they're here and they are laying and they're raising young, that they should be allowed to proceed with that.
The BOU and RSPB are adamant that wild eagle owls haven't lived in Britain in the last 200 years. They are an alien species. They just don't belong here.
I think what I would deny is that it's ever a case of eagle owl coming back, because I'm not sure where the evidence is that they were ever here in the first place. And that has to be the starting point for any of these issues.
Influential conservationists are even considering whether steps shouldn't be taken to halt them now, before it's too late. Sweden takes a more permissive view. Unlike Britain, it can't seem to get enough of the eagle owl. Since 1980, more than 2,000 captive-bred birds have been released into the wild.
That's it. That's good. What a beautiful bird. Yep. Shall I keep hold of the feet, or?
Yes, if you have it, shall you take it like that?
Yep. There's quite a bit of owl. He's quite big.
Yeah, do not let him
go. No,
Okay.
I will hold him tight.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm happy.
Everything's all right.
He has flat flies on him.
He has.
What beautiful eyes.
Yeah, the eyes are really something.
There couldn't be a starker contrast between Swedish and British attitudes.
I'm going to throw. Oops! Fantastic. Flying so well, and along way now it's gliding into the trees.
Listen to the crows.
The crows are very worried.
Yeah.
And are there any problems with the people? Do they worry about this big owl, or?
No, opposite. They are happy for it. For example, they breed in the city dumps because there's rats and lots of food. And here in this place, they will have their supper of a jackdaw or a young crow, for example, which is something that people think is good. Now and then it could be a cat, but there's lots of cats too.
Everything he's seen in Sweden convinces Roy that eagle owls would be a welcome addition to our ecosystem. Roy's bothered by the hardline attitude of the conservation bodies. If he can find evidence that they were here, perhaps he can change their minds. Roy has found records of eagle owls seen in Britain going back hundreds of years, and has put the information together to try to clarify the issue.
our own research has shown a good number of records, especially between 1684 and 1893, and then there's a real gap until 1931, and then there's about half a dozen records to 1943.
But there's also evidence that eagle owls were kept in captivity in Britain as long ago as 1849. Can Roy find any hard evidence that the records were of truly wild birds?
I do notice that in the late 1800s there are actually more records between September and January than there are for the rest of the year, and I think that's quite interesting because that suggests that birds are appearing from somewhere. If they were escaped or living locally from people who might have been breeding them, which is one suggestion, then you would expect them to be around all the year round. But there is a suggestion that there's more in the autumn. Sometimes I think you have to listen to the people of the day. Looking at this book, Moody's British Birds, written in 1835, the east winds sometimes bring it to the shores of England. So I think it's really how you regard these older records.
Just because an author has written in a book that he has seen or he knows of eagle owls coming in off the North Sea, we wouldn't accept that as a record. We would want documentary evidence of why it was an eagle owl. We would want a description, and we would want some illustrations. We would want something better than just a passing comment to say that it was recorded coming in off the North Sea.
People like me are slightly worried that the committees tend to use those criteria to judge records from 50 or 100 years ago. And the time then was that a person saw an eagle owl and described it relatively simply, but he knew he was seeing something very unusual.
Roy's evidence suggests that wild eagle owls have crossed the North Sea during the last 200 years, that they do naturally occur in Britain. But how can you prove that they can fly that far? Switzerland. Roy has come here to visit some eagle owl researchers. They've been radio tagging the owls as they disperse from their nests, and the latest findings are dramatic.
Now where is...
It's probably sitting in it, somewhere in the trees, not really in the rocks over there, but...
The radio-tagged birds have been travelling more than 350 kilometres, reaching both France and Italy, flying at an average speed of 40 kilometres an hour and crossing over 3,000-metre passes to get there. In comparison, crossing the English Channel is just a short hop. In Belgium, where eagle owls were extinct until 1983, numbers have increased dramatically. Within just 10 years of their arrival, there were 30 pairs. Today, along just 20 kilometers of the River Meuse, there are as many as 4 pairs of eagle owls, thought to have come from Germany. Right across Europe, eagle owls are spreading west right up to the coast. Could they have reached Britain already? Could the Yorkshire birds be some of the first immigrants from Europe? It's September now, and the young owls have grown up. One is still on the rock face, while its sibling takes a flight up the valley. Where will they go? Where have the previous 20 gone? Sightings of eagle owls are increasing right across the country. In the past 10 years, there have been 27 convincing reports of wild eagle owls, not escapees. And these sightings haven't just come from the countryside, but from towns and cities too. have these birds come from? A few weeks after returning from Switzerland, Roy gets a further breakthrough thanks to David Pickford, a Shropshire farmer.
I've come down, saw it from a distance, came down to where it was, and it was actually, when I looked up, it was actually directly underneath power cables. This was about 8:30 in the morning, and then thinking about it, about 8:30 the night for the evening before, the lights in the house flashed just for an odd second, off on, and I assume that may have been the time that it got caught in the cables.
But there was an important piece of evidence on this bird.
I actually took the bird in and took the ring off, and as you can see there is a burn mark on it. It says on the side of it, inform BTO, British Museum. So I got the phone number, rang them down there and informed them that I'd found this bird, because I assumed that it had obviously escaped from somewhere and they're looking for it. The lady down there checked the number and said confirmed it was an eagle owl, and that it was from a breeding pair in North Yorkshire.
So this was a bird from the Yorkshire nest from the previous year. Shropshire is more than 200 kilometres from Yorkshire. This is the first hard evidence that wild eagle owls are not just surviving, but spreading throughout Britain. After a year on the case, Roy's certain that there is a place for eagle owls in Britain, and that the conservation bodies have got it wrong. He's convinced that the eagle owl was once a British bird, but was hunted to extinction like so many other predators. He believes they should be welcomed back, that they're a necessary part of our ecosystem.
Well, I must say, my visits to European countries has made me think differently about this bird. And there's no doubt they can live in our countryside. You know, it's no different than Holland or southern Sweden or Germany. And I think there's lots of different places they can breed. You know, fantastic that we can now hear that call again in the countryside. And we no longer need to be scared and worried that it's some supernatural thing. It's just an eagle owl calling at night in our countryside. I think it's marvellous.
Soon after the interviews for this film were recorded, new European law came into force in Britain, giving wild eagle owls full protection. Roy is delighted. Eagle owls may take rare wildlife, and even the occasional cat. But perhaps that's a small price to pay for sharing our land with such a magnificent wild creature.